Councilmember Ben Argo. Here. Councilmember Brett Argo.
Here.
Councilmember Jason Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember Kirk Kipling.
Here.
Thank you, Kathy. Approval of agenda.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Public comment. Anybody from public comment? Michael?
Morning. Mike Tompkins, 612 North 3rd Street. I just have a couple of comments, and I hope we got a lot of common sense going on today. I've been thinking about this issue that we've had for several years now, about the fire department needs a new fire truck. And I guess that's probably number one on our priority list. And also the tower and the fire department. So there's been rumors and a lot going around about having to build a brand new fire department for millions of dollars. I'm a practical type of person. I've been in the building industry for 40 plus years. And I look at the inventory that we have of buildings, what the requirements of each department are. And from my perspective, we should leave the fire department where it is now and take the DPW and put them somewhere else in the city. Now, we've got a recycle center out near our recycle facility that would make a nice workshop for mechanic shop. You've got plenty of land out there where you could throw up a steel building. We worked out of a steel building for 50 years with the lumber yard. It's still in operation as another business, but it's still a viable building. And I look back and over the years, these steel buildings have about a 75 to 100-year lifespan. So DPW needs warehouse space to put our $200,000 bucket loaders, our $500,000 vac trucks, stuff like this. It's easy to take one of those buildings and convert it to whatever you need. They're free-span buildings. They're easy to insulate. They're easy to plumb. They're easy to electrify. They got a lot of pluses. They don't have to look pretty, but they do look neat, and they do the job. The other thing is the fire tower. Apparently, originally, I don't know who spec'd the brick out on that fire hall, but it wasn't the proper brick for the reconstruction. Brick has several different hardnesses, several different weatherabilities. So obviously they picked the wrong one. We talked to a few of the people from the Mason Union here 3 years ago, and they told me exactly what was wrong with the building. Now, they were willing then to come up and take another look at it and give us an idea what it would take to fix that tower. But I'm got a feeling that the most economical thing would be to take down what was done and put a new cap on it, which would look attractive. It's not exactly original, but there's nothing in that building that's original anyway. So why? Then we could have the fire department working on the front and the back of that building. The back of the building is on grade. We don't have to worry about the basement collapsing or anything else. You can put on whatever weight equipment you want in the building. So it's, to me, and it's heated. Bingo. The police department can go into.
Almost out of time, Michael.
Alrighty. That's about all I got, so keep that in mind.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we will move on to our only item of business, request for state funding for police, fire, and DPW building or a fire truck. The thing I have to lead with is portions of this we're not prepared for as we sit here today because it came up suddenly. And as soon as the manager was made aware of the potential We jumped on it. So we're not even able to answer if it involves a grant match of any kind or how much the grants are. So this is an informational meeting to give direction to city staff to move forward. So we're going to let Randy take over and get going here.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to just talk about how we got here. So on Tuesday night, about 4:45, I received a call from Representative Carl Bonak about being willing to submit a budget request for the Ishpeming fire and police facility. So that kind of started the ball rolling. He also informed me that the application is due today. So not a lot of time to kind of get things together. So that's really the reason to have this meeting. I really appreciate Tanner Orban is online from Representative's office and can answer questions. I did prepare some questions that I thought in anticipation that most people would have, and then obviously council has questions, we can ask them. But I really apologize to the public that we couldn't give more notice. Grant and I put something on Facebook just to try and get the information out there, but like the mayor said, it was very quick, and I appreciate council being able to make this meeting. I know it's been a big deal here, but it takes everybody to try and get this done. So Tanner, you want to introduce yourself and kind of your role, and then I'll just kind of go through these questions that I sent you earlier.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name's Tanner Orban. I am Carl Bonak, State Representative Carl Bonak's legislative director.
Yeah.
I've been kind of trying to help facilitate a lot of the budget stuff, and we were made aware of the situation early this week about you guys possibly looking for some funding for a fire truck and possibly a fire hall. One thing I do really want to emphasize before we get into the questioning, that is, this isn't grants. It's out of the state budget fiscal year. So it'll go into the general fund, and we're just trying to put in a request, and we'll try to fight as hard as we can to get it. Obviously, we can't make any promises with kind of the political uncertainty down here right now, but we at least want to fight for you guys. We know that you guys are looking for some funding, and we want to make sure that you guys are feeling the love and the needs are there as well. So.
All right, I appreciate it, Tanner. So I'll just go through the questions. And the first one is there a local match required for funding? If so, what is the match percentage?
So to my understanding right now, though, there's no match requirement, and that's typically for grants, and this is just out of the fiscal year budget. So.
All right, thank you. Then how many years do we have to spend if we get the awarded funds?
So there's not really technically an end date. However, with my experience so far, it'd be good to probably put an end date. It'll probably help your cause. A lot of people in Lansing some of the people in power with some of the budget stuff are from downstate, and they're not going to want to give money to, say, a township or a city, and they don't really know the end date. They don't want to give it to somebody and just have it kind of sit there for years. So it would be good, especially with all the requests have to be made public this year. It'd be probably good to put an end date. That way it just provides as much transparency to the public, and it might just help the cause overall.
Good. And then I asked, the next question was, what are the reporting requirements associated with the funding? I understand we'd have to, report we get state money, but is there any ongoing reporting typically in grants? I'm used to is we have to do a progress report, something like that. Is there anything that you're aware of for that portion of it?
I did put an inquiry into the Treasury Department to get the exact process. That way I'll get the exact steps, and they'll send that to me, and I can get an email out to you guys, hopefully by the end of today or tomorrow. But to my understanding, I think it would, when I was doing my own digging, but I wanted to reach out to the professionals on that, it would just be the annual financial reporting that is typical for most townships and cities.
Okay, appreciate that. And then is the funding dispersed as a lump sum up front, or do we have to ask for reimbursement through submission of invoices?
I believe it is lump sum. The only way that would be different is if it was put in statute during the legislation when it's passed.
Okay. And then is a cost estimate or schematic design required at this stage?
It's not. but it's very, very heavily emphasized. So I'll go into that a little bit. So the reason why I would say it would probably be best, because if we just say we just threw a number out there, right? We don't really have any backing. It'd really get hard to get people supportive of it, especially with the way things are with a split chamber. The House is expected to try to do as much cutting as possible, but I would say throwing a random number out there with nothing really backing it or no proof or no step through step thing would be really hard to get people support of it. We're happy to help you guys in any way we can in whatever you guys want. I would recommend that there is some backing or some evidence to saying this is why this is needed, whether it's a facility report, anything. Another thing too is say we underestimate the number that you guys actually need. And then all the repairs, there's still a lot of repairs out there and not a lot of the fixes happen necessarily, then it'd be really hard to try to re-up that. It's like, well, we need a couple $1 million more. It'd be really hard to get that again if they appropriated the last fiscal year. So that's kind of why I would recommend trying to have a good set number. And like I said, if this is like with the fire hall, if you guys need more time, that's totally okay. We'll be as hands-on as we possibly can for you guys. We're just trying to make sure that you guys are included in this conversation or not left out.
Okay. And then if it is for the facility, if that's the way the council goes, is there a maximum amount we can request, or do you have any recommendation on, what kind of gets through? Is there a certain dollar amount that typically doesn't make it through, or any advice on that?
There's no maximum. There's no maximum. If you guys wanted to request any number, we'll be happy to try to help facilitate. I would recommend lower, in the couple million range is kind of where I would hang out. But if you guys want to try to pursue more, totally fine. Totally fine. We're happy to help facilitate any of your needs, but it would be hard to get the bigger the number, the harder is typically a good rule of thumb. We tried to have some with other municipalities we've been working with. Some of them are asking for a higher number, and we give them forewarning. It's going to be really tough, especially this year.
Okay. And then I asked the deadline, so I've got that answer. So I'll get whatever the council decides to as soon as I can. I know you have a deadline at 5 p.m. So
Absolutely, and I'll be easily reachable today. So I'll be able to pick up the phone and get it in as soon as possible for you.
And then one question I didn't ask on, that I sent you, but we talked about is it either or? Can we only put in for either the fire station or the truck, or can we do both? And how is that looked at, as far as you're concerned, from the legislature?
You can do both. There's no problem with doing both. I would stay cautious on the side of the fire hall if you don't have an exact number, for the simple fact of we don't want to discredit the project. It's super important and we don't want to discredit it. If we just kind of throw out a number and there's not a lot of backing to it, and then we're back the next year, it would be hard to kind of keep that reputation there. So I would say make sure I would recommend a good number if you have, backing of it. But again, we're happy to help facilitate. If you think this is the number, we'll be happy to go to bat for you guys.
Okay. I think the member of the public brought up, there's been a big issue with our tower that's been on there. It's an old historic, I guess. It was made for drying hoses from I've learned. And we got a net on it, and there's concerns about it. We do have a report on that and a cost estimate on that part of it. So just so you kind of know a little history on that as the council talks about that stuff.
Awesome.
That's the only questions I had.
Jason?
So, Tanner, thanks. This is Jason Chapman. This is something that I've been kind of working on for 5 years. So I've had a lot of conversations with different folks, whether it's bringing both Senator McBroom and Carl to the fire hall. And the one thing that Ed did make kind of clear was that this was the worst fire hall in his district, which, as you know, is BUP. So, and with Carl coming 2 weeks after he was elected, that really was an impressive thing, and he's expressed his desire to really want to help us there too. But Tanner, I do have a couple questions. Because I worked for Representative Kim Benzie, but what would like a 3-year date, kind of like a 3-year end date be kind of inappropriate? I mean, I've done some background with former Rep. Kim Benzie and stuff.
Yeah, 3 years is pretty standard for the most part.
Yeah.
We put in a couple of other requests and they asked the kind of the same question. And to my understanding and all the dealings I've done, 3 years is pretty standard, and that would be a good rule of thumb.
And another thing too, though, you know, with one house being Democratic and one being Republican, you know, we would need to get support from the Senate and from the Lieutenant Governor and Governor. Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist does know about the issues with the fire hall here. He's expressed interest in wanting to help. And I do have his email address, his direct email address, that we can kind of work through on that too. And then I'm happy to come down and meet with some of the senators in the Senate that I know too, because I offered to Carl I'd go down and testify for his bill for the Tilden too. So, you know, I could set up a meeting with Senator Hertel and a few others that I'm friends with down there. So, you know, I'm willing to come down on my own dime to help out and get whatever asks that we have
Well,
passed.
council will have to decide.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Is it easier to get, you know, this was something that Ed and I and Carl had talked about. Is it kind of easier to get money for new versus remodeling, you know, something that's over 100 years old?
You can go either way. I think if the number's reasonable. So it really depends on what's best. I would make sure that if it was a new build, that the entire report is concise to the point. It's very detailed, and because all that will also, it's public with the new transparency rules that were adopted by the House this year.
Right, and I think having the conversation too and bringing Ed in would be good, because he's been trying to get this done for us for a few years too. And he did kind of, you know, he did say in that meeting with the fire chief that, you know, it would be pretty hard to get a lot, you know, money to restore it versus a brand new build, with how obsolete the building itself is kind of where we were talking and leading the conversation.
Yeah, and I did make Mick Broom's office aware of that. I was meeting with you all today. They're kept in the conversation. They'll know about any ask that we put in for you, and they'll be very supportive as well. Obviously, you know that, so.
Yep.
All right, any other council questions? The one thing I have, Tanner, is Bonak's predecessor. They granted almost $500,000 to restore a theater in our neighboring city. So I would hope that request for restoring an operating fire department carries the same level of weight that the theater restoration does.
Absolutely.
Just a heads up.
No, and I appreciate that information. Yeah, I didn't know that. But like I said, the political landscape's a little different though than it was 2 years ago, right? They had full control, full majority. But like I said, that's not going to slow us down. We're going to do everything we can to help you guys out. So
Much appreciated. Mr. Manager, anything else before we let Tanner go?
No, you guys said it.
Can
I
I-
just need direction on what you want me to submit.
Well, I'd like to hear from both the police chief and the fire chief too, as it's the building.
Regarding?
Well, about the space and what their needs are.
You've investigated this
I have.
extensively,
I
sir.
have. I mean,
Okay.
you want me to report on it, or would you like to hear it out of their mouths?
I don't need any more information.
Okay.
I know what we need. How about council?
Okay.
All right. We're all set, Tanner. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for giving
Tanner.
us your time.
absolutely, thanks for having me.
Are you going to be with the representative tomorrow in Ishpeming?
I will not be with the representative tomorrow, but we have an in-district staffer that'll be with him. So
Very good. Thank you, sir.
thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
See ya. Thanks, Tanner.
Tanner.
All right. Now, our question is going to be what we want to authorize the manager to submit for. It will have no monetary obligation attached to it.
Yeah.
My belief and we can all weigh in on this, is we have no information or no consensus on a new fire station. We have no plan as to whether we would do a new facility with DPW and public safety in the same building or what we would do. We do have numbers for the repair of the fire tower. We also have number and specs for fire truck. So personally, I believe that those are the two things we should shoot for. I think it's very common sense. I think it's very conservative. That being said, before I pass on to you guys, I think we should direct the manager to move forward with our fire department, our DPW, and our police department, and start putting these plans together. We've been talking about them for 6 or 7 years or longer, and we've never pulled the trigger on getting plans. That's gonna cost some money, but it's money well within our budget. So if an opportunity comes up, we can say, well, here's drawings, here's costs, like we can do with the tower and the fire truck. So, Ben?
Perfect.
Wow.
Don't tell them that.
That was my thoughts too, but what is the cost of the tower?
I just got the report just before we walked in here. It wasn't that much, not on that report anymore. For the whole thing, yeah.
25 for just
To cap it.
350s.
But it was under less than $1 million for restoration.
It was,
I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. So they did give us two options. Option one was restoration, that was $450,000 to $600,000, and then option two was the removal, that's $350,000 to $400,000. It's just confirming the figures.
wasn't the removal just to remove the top and redo it?
That was, I think, kind of similar to what Mr. Conlon was describing.
Cap it.
Cap it,
Oh.
take the new stuff down, bring it down to building level,
Okay.
and just cap that tower. And then Jason would use like drying racks for the tower to dry.
Yeah, they don't do a lot of hose drying. Councilman Kipling.
I'm with you on it, I agree with you on it, and we're actually going back to the way we used to do it on the council, is Corning would have all these things ready to go, and I'm sure our city manager will have his name down in Lansing, where he'd get a phone call, got $200,000 to spend, Corning said, got it right here, ready to go. So I think it's a good idea to have all these projects ready with some kind of numbers, but, yeah.
Very good, thank you. The other article.
I'm in agreement with what you said. We have the numbers for the tower and the truck. And we have a millage on the old truck that's ending coming up, correct, Grant? And if we're able to lessen the tax burden on the city without having to do a new millage for that, that would be great in my opinion.
Very good, thank you. Councilman Chapman.
So, I mean, for the last 5 years, I've been pushing to get to, and I made motions to have the manager go out and take a look at this kind of stuff. You know, it's frustrating that we're in this situation right now where we do have the opportunity to apply for something, but the plans were not even investigated. I think that throwing a lot of money into this building that's over 100 years old is throwing good money after bad. I mean, the building itself it's throwing good money after bad when we have an opportunity to actually start fresh with something newer for multiple departments. You know, the police department doesn't have much room in there. The fire department doesn't have much room. The basement, the gym is kind of pretty poor. They've brought their own equipment in. You know, it would be nice to give our firefighters and our police department a facility that has everything that they need in it, that can be utilized, that can be energy efficient, that has enough space for what they want to do, and getting their vehicles in out of the cold. because they have to keep their police vehicles running in the winter. So there's money savings right there too. We have the opportunity to ask for some money. We have the opportunity to try and get a big chunk of the money we would need for a project like that.
What is a big chunk?
Well,
There's the problem.
hey,
That's the problem.
I,
You've been working and you worked diligently for
Yep.
5 years.
yep.
And we've received nada.
Hey, I made
So now-
motions.
So now,
I made
I'm
motions.
talking right now. So now, we have a reasonable likelihood of getting reasonable grants.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable is the key word. I don't disagree with the fact a new fire hall, new police station would all be great. But the likelihood of being refused is huge. So then we would be sitting here with, because they're not gonna say, well, we'll give you 10 million for something we don't have a clue.
No, I understand that.
The
too.
second thing is, we could come out of this quite likely with a new fire truck and a repaired historical building
I agree with that.
that's an
too.
anchor to our community.
I'm not saying it's
In
not.
in the short term, we could spend $400,000 to tear down one of the most beautiful, and you know it's near and dear to my heart.
I know.
Most beautiful structures in the Midwest and cap it off with a rubber roof, or we could spend a few more $1,000s and restore it to its original beauty and still use that building down the road after we build a new station. So what we're here for today is to discuss how we
know that.
direct the manager.
And if we were going to move forward with the option you presented, I would not want to cap it. I would want to rebuild it to its fullest potential, because that's what the building is right now.
And that's where we are today.
You know, I would not want to cap it. But also keep in mind, there is a space issue. There is a issue for that they don't have a really good quality gym down there. I think it would be appropriate to at least make some asks on this, to build maybe an addition for the police department, and potentially some new gym equipment.
With
and
all
stuff
due
like
respect,
that.
you're off the subject.
Well, it's not off the
wishes.
subject.
We have two reasonable options. 4 council people agree
I'm just
in the
saying,
direction.
it would be nice for a compromise to include that in an ask for maybe a small addition, so the police department has some more room. That floor already, we know is rippling in there. You know, eventually we're
The
going.
floor where?
In the fire hall. So I'm just saying that it would be nice to at least give them some of the benefits in this building.
Is
while
any
we
of that
wait.
pertinent to the subject today?
I think it's all pertinent, Your Honor. It's all part
So
of
what would
that
we ask for?
conversation. I would say if we're gonna go down the restoration path, I would say that we should go and we should ask for the restoration of the fire tower and an addition to the building.
And how much would that cost?
Well, that's something
Can I
that-
see the drawings?
that's stuff that
That's
can
the
be
point.
worked out, Your
We
Honor.
don't have anything. He's got to pull the trigger tomorrow.
Today.
Today.
It's today. I understand.
So we can
that.
sit here and wish in one hand and do something else in the other.
Well, I know, but I
So
don't want to,
Please get back to the point.
I don't
You
want
stated your
to,
position. It's clear you don't support the rest of the
I'm
council.
not saying I don't support the rest of the
Well, we're
council,
gonna
Your
be
Honor.
calling
Please
the
don't
question.
put, well, I would like to have the opportunity to at least finish where I was going with that.
You have finished.
No, I haven't, Your Honor. That's
You
not,
have finished.
you're, I have a right to say.
You are currently out of order. You're off the subject,
I'm not out of order.
and I
Your
won't
Honor.
call you out of order if you wrap up your comments.
Let me wrap it up, would you please?
I'll give you 2 minutes.
All right. I think that it all does tie together, and I think
It's irrelevant today. That's the thing.
I disagree. You know, I've worked down there, I've worked through
It's
the
America.
process. So I know you don't think that I have any friends down there left or what have you. I've heard the comments.
That's
you've made behind
irrelevant
my
as
back.
well.
But
I'm not going to
willing
sit and
help.
argue about it.
Well, I'm willing to try and get this done. but I will support the council's decision to go forward
That's
with that.
absolutely your call.
But we actually have 2 fire engines that need to be replaced, and I'm trying to look out for,
And we're not asking for 2 today because that would be greedy.
well,
And we would look like.
I get it. I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff that I've been pushing for years.
All right, the motion I will make is to direct the city manager to request the funding for the fire truck that has been spec'd and we have numbers, and to request restoration funds for the fire tower that we have a plan and we have numbers.
Also, yeah.
Have a motion and support to direct the city manager to apply for grant funding for a new fire truck and restoration of the fire tower. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
I've heard that you guys want me to do something with this whole situation. It's not on the agenda to, I think, take a motion, but if you're directing me, what I would do is I'd bring back an RFP for design options. If that's okay with the council, if that makes sense. I don't think I need a motion on it. I think.
Right.
As long as you guys are all on board with that, okay.
Can we at least put in there for some contingencies in case we find something in that whole project that goes sideways, maybe another extra 100, just in 100,000 in case?
In the grant ask?
Yeah.
I don't think,
I'll put in inflation.
if it's,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
if it's possible, whatever.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll put in an inflation number because of that information's
Yep.
at least a year old grant. Is it 2 years?
We,
Rehab cost.
One,
A rehab cost?
rehab cost for the tower,
Yeah.
that's pretty new.
that's pretty new.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put it, yeah.
All right, we have a motion and support. It's passed. There you go.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support? We're done. Thank you, everyone.
Your Honor, you